Ohayo.
Ohio. Welcome to the So Japanese podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things Japan from a
Japanese.
and foreign perspective. We are your hosts. My name is John.
My name is Ryusuke.
Thank you for joining us today.
ありがとうございます。
We kind of always do it at the end, but I'm afraid people just stop the podcast. So let's try to remind our listeners at the start of this episode
Sure.
to rate, review, follow, subscribe wherever you find our podcast, and same with social media. We're on all the platforms, so just give us a follow.
Yep.
That would help a lot. We would really appreciate that. So today's episode is a few people have suggested this episode to us, so we're finally doing it. We think it's a very important episode, important topic, even though it's sensitive, but I feel like it needs to be talked about. We're calling today's episode Forbidden History, Problems with How Japan Teaches History. So it is well known that Japan has removed some historical facts from what they teach students because either it's very controversial or there's some denial. I mean, like, I guess many countries do the same thing, right?
Yes.
They skew the history to make them look better. So a thing to note, very important thing to note, is that during the I guess topics we're going to talk about of what happened, Japan was under a military dictatorship. So the decision to go to war, it was like forced upon the country. There was no vote amongst the government, amongst the people to go to war. Definitely not everyone was okay with going to war. Definitely everyone wasn't okay with the things that transpired during war times. But if you opposed the war, you were imprisoned or even executed by the military government. So it's the views is not all of Japan, right? It was the military dictatorship in power at that time. So it's like well known that some of the things that happened during war times. But for you, Ryusuke,
Yes.
you didn't learn about it in school.
Not much, yeah.
But you did hear about it, right?
Yeah. Well, my grandpa, he was a pilot, and he decided to join the army by himself.
Okay.
So he wasn't like forced to join the army. And what I heard was, I think he was still like early 20 or something.
Okay.
He wanted to join the army. I mean the Air Force.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
say. And because I think where he lived was like close to the base, and then I didn't really ask, or even he really didn't tell me why he joined. But I believe that because like he needs the job.
Yeah.
Also, obviously that time the atmosphere in Japan is kind of like, if you decide to go by yourself, even better, right? So he joined the army. He flew so many planes, and then he got attacked by other country. He was the pilot, and then he has the partner behind him, and then this guy's basically like the shooter.
Okay.
But while they're flying, his partner got shot and died
Okay.
on the plane, and then he got shot from the bottom of plane through up.
Oh wow.
So that time I heard he got a shot on his leg,
Okay.
but somehow he made it to land somewhere,
Oh wow.
and then he passed out, when he woke up, he was in the hospital, and then he lost the leg.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you always knew him without one of his legs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he's always like, sometimes I touch his leg and then only one leg. I think it was right side, and it's hard because it's fake leg. He put the fake leg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it looks normal. He can walk normal. He even ride bicycle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I think because he lost the leg when he was young, so he can still do, to do all the rehab and stuff, and then he can be normal. No one noticed if you saw him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did he have to work, or could he work afterwards?
Yeah. He was working for some company. At some point, he was working for the government, and at some point, he wanted to open his own business. So he was basically like really healthy.
Do you know if the government compensates him for?
Yeah. That's also one thing. He didn't tell me, but my dad told me. Yeah, he was getting some money from government.
Okay.
It's just because he lost the leg.
Yeah, exactly.
From
for
war.
Fighting for the country.
Exactly. And what I remember when he died, when we cleaned up all his personal stuff, we found out a bunch of books, like brand new books, and it's all about the who people die during World War II.
Okay.
So obviously he was kind of in a middle position. So he had the team like 30 people, and him and one other guy. Other than that, everybody went to kamikaze.
Wow.
Yeah. So he said, I was lucky because of I lost the leg and I couldn't go. But at the same time, he was saying that I was unlucky because I couldn't join that.
Okay.
And then all my team went.
Wow.
So he kept all the books just for he feel, how can I say? It's like he feel why I'm here.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So he really felt like sorry for all the other teammates.
Yes,
they all died.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Did he ever tell you stories about where he went?
I asked him a little bit, and he said like he went to China, and so I think he went like Korea, like those Asian country. But I think when he got attacked was in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. So one of the problems in with Japan is they have a textbook screening process controversy. So about 35 years after Japan was defeated in World War II, the neighboring countries started to direct criticisms at Japan for their history texts, saying that their school books failed to present adequate accounts of Japan's responsibility for its colonization of Korea and for the Sino-Japanese War of 1937 to 45. So they started to demand that the text be revised. So after, I think, even the First World War, the Japanese government, the Ministry of Education, didn't write their text. They gave them to private publishing companies, writers, to write the history books, which would be screened by the government. And then revisions would have to take place, omissions, and whatnot. So what happened was in the mid-1960s, textbook authors, along with publishing company workers, junior high and high school teachers, undertook a strong protest movement against the screening process conducted by the Ministry of Education. They argued that this screening process constituted as censorship, which is forbidden by the Constitution, and they filed 3 lawsuits. So the first lawsuits, the courts mostly ruled against them. But in 1990s, they won a substantive victory. The court ruled that the screening process itself was constitutional, but the specific demands for revisions issued by the ministry were arbitrary and illegal. So, I mean, fact is fact, right? If I'm going to write fact. So if teachers felt that like I should be teaching fact, then you can't argue with fact, right? So these omissions shouldn't happen. So like, for example, at the direction of Japan's parliament, some textbooks made no mention of the war crimes, which led to this is a wide range of number, but the deaths of 3 million to 14 million people in Nanjing, China. So like also the BBC made a report in 2013 saying that one of the major Japanese history books contained only 19 out of the 357 pages dealing with the events between 1931 and 1945. For example, the Nanjing massacre occupying only one line. So I think many people, even like abroad, because it was like war in Asia, right? Yeah. China, Japan, Korea. Yeah. A lot of North American people don't know of the events that transpired. Maybe they don't even know about the Sino-Japanese war, right? But I found out about it because my dad told me. Because my dad's family, there's 6 brothers and 1 sister. So as a kid, I would go to Hong Kong, visit family, and I was like, hey, where's brother number 2? So my dad said during the war, because our family was poor. So the older kids, the oldest brother, my grandparents, I guess, needed to help with the family. So he stayed. But the second and the third one, they kind of gave them away to like rich families that couldn't have kids or male heirs for themselves. So so the second brother was missing. They don't know what happened to him. But the third brother, so apparently my grandma would like have like a market stall. And she noticed that there was this like boy, after a few years, there's this boy that kept on kind of peeking at her. And then later they, reunited, and it's like, hey, like it's me. But at that time he already like took the last name of the adoptive family, I suppose. Of course, but he's passed away now, but he was part of the family even like up until he died. But he still kept his new last name. So then that's when I first heard about, there was war between Japan and China during that time. And then I also remember my dad taking me to like a exhibition of the massacre of Nanking or Nanjing, and saw photos, and it was like pretty graphic, right? But I remember like the thing my dad told me before and after visiting this like exhibition, he was like, from seeing this stuff, I'm only bringing you to show you as an education. Like don't hate anything or anyone, right? Like it's like it was during war times, so it's different circumstances, right? Things that happened are things that happened because of war. So like, don't hate. Because even like in my dad early 20s, he visited Japan many times. He lived there for a little bit too. So obviously like him growing up during the war times, he didn't have hatred in him, right? Like again, it was war times. Things are different, right? You can't now hate on past things, on what happened in the past, right?
New generation.
Exactly. Those people are dead. The people that made those decisions to go to war, of what happened, are dead. So I think that, so in researching this, we found out that like I think we knew it, but didn't know the extent of it. But how Germany teaches their own students is like really good.
Yep.
Right. So compared to Japan, Germany and 17 other countries, I guess EU countries, it's a crime to deny the Holocaust and to display any Nazi symbols. The German curriculum goes into great detail about the evils of Hitler's regime. Most schools even organize field trips to former concentration camps and Holocaust memorials, right? Like, they're not denying it.
Yeah,
right?
To show new generation, teach them properly
exactly
what's happened.
The whole point of history is that you learn from it and move on, and it can help dictate how you act going forward.
And
right?
to do not same mistakes, same problem.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like omitting this stuff in Japan is like, it's bad for the youth.
Because it's just hiding.
Exactly, right? Ryusuke found out that, like, in France and Germany, they even made write their history books together for textbook. Yeah. So they're on the same page, basically, right? Right.
Because for sure, like, oh, you say this, but like, no, it happened this way. Don't write that like you're better to
or
listen.
Just don't not write it, right? So yeah, you need both perspectives, the winning side and the losing side, right? So apparently China, Korea, and Japan have tried to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's never really happened. Too many disagreements, too much blaming each other. I think it's like an Asian thing, man. Like, there's too much face.
I know.
You know, like in Asian countries, like, they don't like to admit wrongdoings. Another thing my dad taught me that really young, he mentioned, was that, so my dad also lived in Australia. And apparently back then, Australia was super racist.
Oh, yeah.
So like he was a bartender, and then after work, he would play pool or snooker. And since it's super racist, this racist white guy, they got in an argument, and the guy took a pool cue across my dad's face.
Oh.
My dad instantly lost all his teeth. Like, I never knew him with teeth. He's always had like dentures. And when he told me the story, he's like, the funny part is that guess who took me to the hospital?
Who?
The guy who hit me.
Oh.
So it might sound racist, I'm not sure, but he said, white people don't hold grudges.
Okay.
Right? Like, something happens, they get over it, and they move on, and they can still be friends, they can still talk. But he said, Asian people, if you get in a disagreement with Asian people, even your own family members, you could not talk for the rest of your life. It could happen.
It's like for everything.
Yeah. Like, we know from my uncle's family, his wife and her sister, they haven't talked for like ever.
Because they fight for some reason?
They probably don't even remember why they fought, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think it's like an Asian trait to like really hold grudges, or like, you know, face is such a big thing. We'll get to face later, but yeah. Like, it's,
I mean, that's not good for, again, like we are talking about the new generation, because the old generation keep holding all those like the event like long time ago. Well, you guys need, well, of course, like you went through all the hard time, but for us, it's like we need to know, and we need to feel maybe sorry. We need to feel maybe like why this happened, but we just need to know the fact.
Yeah. It's education, right?
Yeah, it's not like.
It's like, could be the shame of the past shouldn't dictate what is known. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Even though if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Because otherwise it won't, I mean, like, it's not gonna make anything better. And
it definitely won't make things go away.
Yeah.
Right? It's still there.
Just keep hate.
So I think another thing that makes it so that having the conversation of why past events happened is not thoroughly discussed, or even the students don't care, is because in Japan there are entrance exams to get into school. So I was aware of university entrance exams, but Ryusuke mentioned that there's even high school entrance exams, which to me is pretty crazy, right? Like,
I thought that was normal.
To me, it sounds stressful.
Yeah, it was.
Right? In Canada, there's no entrance exams to get into university or in high school, right? Like, we don't have, it's not like, we're not like the States where they have like SATs, like this like big test, right? It really causes undue stress and perhaps makes students study and learn things just for an exam.
Exactly.
Not
in a
for
wrong
life.
way. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So for you, you had to write entrance exams to get into high school?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I did. So yeah, like, I mean, some people even do junior high, but that's mostly for private.
Okay.
But high school, even though for the private or either public, you must take.
Wow.
So,
you must.
Yeah, must.
Do you know what like the passing score is, or there's
depending on the school, depending on like the time of like, for example, like, well, this school gets more people.
Okay.
So like obviously the score should be higher.
Okay.
Some sort of things. And
or like it's a lower high school, so like the marks required to come to this high school isn't as high. Oh, interesting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So my case, my parents told me to go public, and then but anyway, just in case if I don't pass the exam for public, I should still take the private high school exam.
Okay.
And the private high school exam is before the public school exam.
Okay.
So I took that first, and I passed. I think I did it 2 school.
Okay.
And I passed both.
Wait. It's not just one test. You have to test per school.
Yeah. It's not about like you. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why like it depending on the school, because we go to school, we do exam, then we know later. So for me, I did 2 different private schools. I have 2 days. One day I go this private school, and then the other day I went another private school to took both exam. Yeah.
Wow.
And then after that, for public school, I was playing volleyball when I was junior high, and then we were okay. Wasn't really strong, but we were okay. So I got how to say?
Invited?
Yeah, kind of
accepted?
invited. Yeah, because of I was playing volleyball, so I didn't have to take any exam.
Oh wow!
Only interview.
Okay.
And I get it in.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And did you know what was gonna be on these exams, or?
Yeah, well, that's also why everybody goes to after school, right?
After school study.
Exactly.
Programs.
After school, they know more than the school.
Yes.
So like after school, okay, last year you go to school, you got this exam, so let's do this. Maybe like past 5 years exam should be one of them.
Wow.
Yeah. So really just do it.
And to get into high school, you're like 14, right? 13, 14.
15.
15.
Yeah.
That's like too much stress and pressure too early.
I think it was stress for me, but also for my parents too.
It's fucked up. You get so much pressure. There's all this pressure around just to go to high school.
Yeah.
It's not a healthy environment, I don't think, right?
No. If I knew Canada, I mean North America is like this, I'll definitely complain the teacher, like why we have to do this.
Yeah, right?
Why we are not fair.
It's an Asian thing as well. I'm sure other Asian countries do it. I think
do
Korea.
You know China?
For sure China has some shit like
Korea,
this.
I think.
Korea does. And I think for like the either university entrance exam,
about.
they like shut the city down.
Or yeah, like some student being late because of like traffic or whatever, and then police.
They get a police escort to go, right? And I think they even stop airplane traffic.
Really? Oh, because of the noise?
Yeah, so the students can concentrate on the exams.
Wow.
So during those hours, no flight.
Wow.
It just, so this stressful nature and the fact that the students go to these after school programs, so they kind of know what's going to be on it anyway, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it makes you focus on scores, right? So it makes you focus on scores just to memorize dates, right? Not, and like dates and like what happened, but not why things happen, right? So that's a big problem, right?
Yeah.
So for example, like in Japan, students only learn the fact that US dropped 2 bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when it happened and how many people were killed. They have no discussion on the events that led to why it happened, how it could have been prevented, and the results. Like none of it. They just know the date. I memorize the date. I'm going to write on my exam. That's it.
That's it.
So that culture of entrance exams isn't healthy, doesn't help the students.
If you think this is studying, if you think this is learning about history and how we study, is totally not right. Because we don't remember anything. Yeah. I mean, we don't get the idea of why or how. So
and like apparently only in high school do you get to choose if you want to study world history or just Japanese history. And world history in Japan mostly covers ancient Chinese history and European history, like the Roman Empire. And on the entrance exams for university, there's no history questions, only if you choose history as one of your subjects. But even then, it only focuses on pre-modern and modern, mostly nothing after World War I. No. So the painful stuff, the controversial stuff, the stuff that they want to hide is not asked on these exams. So again, we say it's like an Asian problem of saving face. They also don't focus on teaching critical thinking or having discussions. There's no debating there's no debate club in Asia, right? No. Like they think the teacher is a teacher. Their word is golden. Whatever they say is fact, right? They're always right. You should never question your teacher.
Yeah, right? It's so weird.
So weird. So in like Thailand, in my school, it's a private school, but I received a lot of like, not hate, but a lot of the other Thai teachers didn't agree with my methods because I always taught my students to ask why for everything. I made it a point to tell them that, yes, I'm your teacher, but I'm actually seldom correct. You should always question me and we'll figure things out or find out things together. Yeah. Right? Like,
I mean, to understand any topic, I think that's the best way.
I think so
you
too,
need to
right?
Think about like why. But that's why, like, I don't really think why until recently because my girlfriend always think like why, and then she loves researching. And I noticed that with like researching this and then talking this topic, it's like, yeah, we kind of lost to think about why.
Yeah, you become robots. But that's how Japan, that's how Asia wants to teach their students, right? To like grow up to follow rules.
Yeah. You don't need to think. Yeah. Just follow the rule.
Just be a robot, right? If someone's older than you, especially, don't question.
Yep, because they have they're senpai. Yeah, they're older than me. So,
kind of off topic, not really, but you mentioned the other day that in Japan, after you graduate for university and you want to find a job, there's like these job fair thingies, right? Everyone looks like a robot. Everyone's in suit and tie.
Yeah, exactly same.
Exactly the same. Like you can't even tell the difference of them, really, right? And then you mentioned that like you had a friend who was like hiring people for a job, and there was a lot of Japanese applicants, and your friend told them,
don't wear suit.
Yeah, don't wear a suit. It's not necessary. But all the Japanese applicants, they ended up wearing suits.
Wearing suit, and then he needs to tell them like, sorry, I'm not gonna hire you.
I told you not to.
Exactly. I told not to.
Yes.
And you did it. So you don't even follow the rule, what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Or what I'm giving you. And then what's the point you're wearing suit for?
But that's over here, right? So they still have the Japanese mindset. Because in Japan,
they think have to.
You have to. It's like ingrained in them, right? You have to. And if you don't, you don't get the job.
I think if you for the job interview, and if you don't wear like a formal clothes, and then they feel it's not right. So, but it's just because the culture is like that.
Yeah, right. They're programmed to be robots, right?
Exactly.
So in being robots, you also don't ask why. Right? I feel like in Asia, it's like if you're the teacher, like you discourage your students for asking why, right? And then it makes it so the students are afraid to even give the wrong answers. Like it's like losing face. Face is such a big problem, right? So many times I would ask my class a question, and
they just
silence,
right?
No one's raising their hand because they don't want to be wrong. Just in case they're wrong, they're gonna look bad amongst all their peers. Hazukashi. But then it's just like there's no conversation then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I keep telling my kids that I want you to be wrong. I want to hear the wrong answer, so then we can talk about it, right? We can use it as a learning opportunity for everyone, right? There's no shame in being wrong. We're all learning here, right? But yeah, that's one of the problems, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to have discussion, because I bet you if these students were educated in like an open type environment, and they learn about these facts of the war, they would want to ask why.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or how.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But also maybe how the textbooks present the quote unquote facts. It does make it seem it's super uncomfortable to even ask. Right?
Yeah.
To figure out more, right? So the point is that just because the history is uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't teach it, right? Like,
no, you should teach them.
Right? For sure, like this gruesome history, war crimes is super difficult and uncomfortable, right? But the kids need to know to be able to see the world critically and learn from different perspectives, right?
Yes.
There's all sorts of sides, right? No one's 100% wrong. So at the end of the day, it's like the victims are the kids, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Another problem is that the political party in power has great influence on deciding what is taught in schools. So we were talking about the textbooks before. So the textbooks get okayed, and then they're the textbooks for 5 years. They rotate every 5 years. So pretty much like a government term, right? So if the textbook changes, things gets omitted, that's it for 5 years. There's no changing it again. So that's a problem too, right?
Yeah, that's obviously a problem.
And I feel like if you have like the political party in power, if they're super right-wing or nationalist, they will teach biased history for the sake of nationalism, right? So like, for example, I didn't know the extent of Abe's like government, but they're actually really nationalist.
Yeah, they're really right.
Right?
Yeah.
So apparently his government tried to erase things like the Nanjing massacre and the use of comfort women from the history books. But like if you delete anything that is seen as negative from history, it means that the young people are ignorant of their own nation's past, right? Not knowing about Nanjing or other uncomfortable facts means that they're not able to make appropriate decisions on the future of your country. So when they want to become politicians, or if they have the opportunity to change things, they don't know the past, so how are you going to change things, right?
Exactly.
Also, I didn't know that, like, in the past, emperors in Japan were seen as like God-like figures, right? They're above humans. And apparently Abe wanted to make the emperor be revered like that again, like a god.
That makes sense. And that's what I remember, that it was like a couple years ago, maybe like 1 decade or something, like we, like, for the graduate or whatever, we always sing the anthem, right? National anthem.
Yeah.
But at that point, a lot of teachers deny, like, to not sing or even stand up to sing a national anthem.
So they didn't want to stand or sing the anthem, right?
I think because of that time, like,
they're protesting
about the textbook, protesting about the government, it's really right side. But again, okay, for sure there's a people right and left. I don't really care, to be honest. But for the kid,
exactly,
how you guys gonna explain for these?
And for facts.
Exactly.
You know,
so
it's not like you're spreading propaganda or like how a right wing or a left wing sees things. This is fact.
Yeah.
This is past events that happened.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. So when Germany and Italy lost the war, the leaders that were in power were taken down, stripped of their power. But in Japan, some of the leaders remained. So their influence, some of the powers were stripped, but they still remained in government, which I think is a main problem here, right? Because their influence was able to change what was taught and hide what they did. It's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Again, so with governments having influence over what's taught, they will try to revise or change history, right? So for example, like residential schools in Canada, we were never taught that growing up. Only recently, the last few years, where all this shit is coming out in the news.
Do you think the government knew and they're hiding?
Right? The church and government are really close together at that time. So I'm sure.
Right?
I'm sure we're going to omit it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's like huge problem. I feel like I'm robbed of perspective. Right? If growing up you knew of that, you would be more sensitive, you would act accordingly, you'd want to be more educated on certain issues. I feel like super robbed. So some of the topics that are omitted in textbooks, for example, are the fact that scientific experiments were conducted on people. I think other countries did the same thing, right? You're using humans to test like medicine. There were stories of like they would freeze and then thaw limbs to see what would happen, or like put arms as legs as arms to see what would happen. I mean, for the sake of scientific medicine, I can understand, but these are war crimes, super illegal.
Yeah, obviously.
Pearl Harbor, again, just the facts of the dates of when this happened, where it happened, how many people died, but there's no why being taught, right? What were the events that led up to Pearl Harbor? The use of comfort women. So a lot of I think it's not just the Japanese government, right? A lot of governments would enslave people of the countries that they've taken over and use them as sex workers to provide comfort, quote unquote comfort, to their soldiers on the front line. Another thing we learned was when researching for the drugs episode, like a few episodes ago, is that Japan was giving meth to their soldiers. But when we were researching that, Ruski is like, I didn't know this. We were never taught this, right? The invasion of China, a lot of facts are not given. The occupation of Korea, why, how, what happened, right? How many people were killed? This is all omitted. Even like how the war ended and the deal that they made, it's totally removed. Like, I want to say, we even watched like videos on YouTube of one of the channels were asking millennial Japanese people about questions about history and the things that happened during war times, and all these people didn't know anything.
Like,
right?
Do I know a lot? I don't think so.
No. Me either, right? Also because growing up here, none of this stuff was taught to us, right? I only remember learning about like the War of 1912. I don't remember much about learning about the World War. Definitely didn't learn anything about the wars that were happening in Asia. I only knew, again, because my dad told me. Right? Because it kind of affected our family. But other than that, and I'm sure he doesn't really know either, right? Like, I'm sure a lot of North Americans don't know about it, right? You mentioned that you're reading and how like the media really has influence on this too,
of course. Right? I think like any media in the world is all about like they have the power, or government has the power to controlling them, and then all those information is actually like not the true, right? So Japan is still like a lot of people are watching TV, and then all the like a daytime show or even nighttime news is like, when I'm watching, and sometimes I feel like I shouldn't watch this because like
it's brainwashing.
Yeah,
it's all bullshit.
Yeah. And now I learned this, and I realized that like how much information I thought it's correct, but now I don't think anything is correct. I really needs to research. Even for this episode, yes, we're recording today, but from now on, I need to really research because like I don't get the real fact.
Exactly.
I don't know what is true. It's just like here and there. But you know, like even on YouTube, like you can't really find it. So you need to go like deeper.
Yes.
Especially I think because it's sensitive.
Yeah, right. I think in like when we're researching, I feel like the sites that you were looking at that were like Japanese sites, it's harder to find it in Japanese than it is in English.
I was kind of shocked, like
how difficult it is to find.
I couldn't really find the information what I want to read. So
again, with war, there's no right or wrong side. But like I feel like maybe Japan makes it seem like they are victims because
they lost. But again, the reality is a little bit different, right? But also I think that's how they made it up for us, say that, well, don't do it because everybody is sad and like so many people die, which is true. But also we need to think about like who else get this problem, this issue, and like I would say yes, Japanese soldier too, but obviously they fight with other country, and how many family lost their own families, right?
Again, I wouldn't say like the soldiers are all to blame too, right? Like
Exactly.
brainwashing by the dictatorship, right? Back then, being a soldier, I guess they brainwashed that it's a sense of pride. You're fighting for your country. I'm also going to give you methamphetamine.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a government thing. You don't blame the people, right?
Yeah.
So again, it affects the kids, right?
At the end, yes.
Future. So I feel like another problem is that in deciding what to teach, what to omit from past history, there's like a lack of future vision for the youth that's going to grow up to eventually control your country. I mean, like, both sides are all fucked up, right?
Yeah.
But it's important to teach the facts in order to understand the importance of international cooperation and peace. So like a lot of Japanese officials say that they don't want students to feel guilty or even uncomfortable about their past. But teaching it doesn't mean that you're teaching students to hate, right? It means that you're teaching...
Like your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
they can say that. Like, this is not like or hate.
Exactly.
This is it's
for you to understand.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Why it happened.
Yeah.
Why it should not happen. Right? But they're facts. It's uncomfortable, yes. But it's not, none of this should be hate. And I feel like not teaching it, there's hate. I feel like you talk to an older generation Japanese guy or an older generation Korean guy, they probably hate each other, but they don't know why really.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That I kind of would love to ask my grandpa if he's still alive.
Right?
Yeah. I was too young to even think about that. So
exactly.
Yeah. I really want to ask him, like, so how you feel about everything.
Right. Like, does he blame the government for having to do kamikaze? Right? Or are you brainwashed to think that, the other country made you do it? Like, I'm sure there's a level of hate for your own country there.
Only one thing, like, he's not the type of person, like, he always blames someone or, like, he's really positive guy. And then, like, he's always nice to everyone. But again, I don't know inside his feeling or thinking. So
again, it's wartime. It's all fucked up, man.
Yeah,
it's all fucked up.
Yeah, but that's also why, like, look at us. Like, I'm from Japan. You're born in here, but your parents from China, and I have so many Korean friends. I have like friends all over the world.
Yes.
And do we hate each other? No.
Exactly.
Right? And then we didn't know what happened back then? Yes, we know.
Yes.
But doesn't really matter if it was something wrong or even like there's some wrong things happen in between our nation. Because we met and we're friends.
Exactly.
We're not choosing because of like, whoa, you're from China. Yes, we're friends. Whoa, you're from Korea. Okay, we're friends. Or like, or you're from there and we're not friends. Like,
yeah, that's a fucked up way to think.
I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I love all my friends. And then I don't know if they start hating me or somehow like they change their mind. That's shoganai.
Nothing you can control.
Exactly. But if we know this better, I think we can be, I don't know, stronger.
Yeah. Even be more open for discussion too, right? Yeah. Again, it's in the past. It's like things can't change. Yep. And it's people were in power. It was a different time, right? It's not the everyday Japanese person.
No.
That did this stuff. It's not the everyday Chinese person that did this stuff. So people say that the government of Japan is doing a disservice to its own young citizens as they'll inherit the poor foreign relations they have had with their East Asian neighbors without really knowing why. Right?
Like I said.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like countries, like Asian countries, or even America is probably one of the most patriotic countries. Right? But I think having patriotism for your own country or love for your own country shouldn't be mutually exclusive with confronting a deeply scarred past or learning about horrific events during wartime, right? Like, just because I'm proud to be Canadian or Japanese, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't want to learn about the bad things that our countries have done,
No.
right? Or else you'll never grow.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, when I was in England, where I work was like obviously all European people. And one guy was from one small country, and his country used to be one together. Now they split to one and one. I don't want to say which country, but and then I choose the wrong country. Just talking with them, and then I say the wrong. Like,
you're from the other side.
The other side of country, and then he was kind of like really angry, and he's like, "No, I'm from this side. I'm not from that side." So I know if in Europe there's so many problems.
Yes.
And like I had the experience, like my friend was actually like, "No, I'm from this country, not that country." But again, the fact is like, I guess you shouldn't hate. You should understand why that happened. And anyway, for sure, you didn't hate the country before.
Exactly. It's the government that made you.
Exactly, right?
Right.
So
I feel like you having hate for whatever side is like, it's your own lack of free will. Right? It's proof that it's brainwashing.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, like you said, we're all humans.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't matter where you're from. If we meet, we get along, we can be friends. It's
the anger, the energy,
right?
we can use for so many other stuff. So like,
but you're letting the government win.
Exactly. At the end, government's like, okay, see, like all my people are good.
Exactly.
They think we're the best.
Yes.
But obviously, who's best? Everybody's best.
Yeah.
And like now we're in the Earth. We're in the same planet. That's it. Like if you hate, like sometimes people hate someone and they don't want to talk anymore. I don't do it, even though at that point I hate this guy. I hate this person, but I always like calm down and then think, and then like I ended up always like, oh, yeah, it's something wrong, but now I don't feel anything, and I'm totally fine with them.
But like these like patriotism things, it's like, it's government. It's not like human level of what you did wrong to me or anything. It's
exactly.
It's government, right?
That's why it's even worse.
Government
right?
control.
Yeah, because you think you're doing right, but in general, is that really right things to say, things to think? Because the government says something doesn't mean everything is correct.
Right? Don't listen to media. Don't trust the government.
And we are not even right or even...
We're going to get taken down.
Maybe. Sorry. If this
podcast is going to be taken down in Japan.
If that happens, we're going to find out other way.
All right. So let us know in the comments section of wherever you listen to this podcast. Or you can DM us on TikTok or IG.
Hi.
If you have something to add to this discussion, we would really appreciate it.
Yep. Again, for sure, like there's so many more information, but
yeah, for sure.
What we found is like only a bit, like only in like a, how can I say, like iceberg?
The tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we didn't want to get too factual just because we ourselves, we are not super educated about any of this, right? But yeah. So let us know if you have something to add or you want us to talk about a certain topic about this issue in a future episode. Just let us know. This brings us to our street level Japanese segment. Today, a super useful word. I don't know if it's because how the word sounds that has always stuck with me in my head, or like if I hear it on a casual level, it like intrigued me to think like, hey, what is this word? The word is zen. So depending how you use it, there's kind of two different definitions of zen. So formally, zen is what? Mataku. So we're gonna go over the first way of using zen. So if you use zen with a verb or an adjective, zen means totally, completely, really. So if I ask Ryusuke, are you okay?
全然大丈夫。
全然大丈夫. So he's really okay. Do you understand?
全然わからない。
So he completely doesn't understand. Are you cold?
全然寒くない。
全然寒くない. So you're totally not cold. So that's the first way to use it.
Yep.
The second way to use it is zen by itself. Only zen. And if you use only zen to reply, it means not at all.
Not at all.
So if I ask Ryusuke, hey, do you mind washing the dishes?
全然
So that means
I'm totally fine.
not at all. You
Not
don't
at all.
mind
Yep.
doing it.
Yep.
Hey man, thanks for paying for lunch.
全然
Zen. So not at all.
Not
Don't
at
worry
all.
about it.
Yep.
Can you swim?
全然
Not at all. He can't swim. So zen, super useful. We'll add another one. Has anyone listened to the last episode of our podcast?
全然
That means not at all. No one has.
やめて
So very useful. I'm sure to people who are learning the language or people who know Japanese, they will agree. Zen. Very useful, very street level. So I hope you found this episode interesting.
ね It was interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And thank you for listening.
ありがとうございます。
Anything to add other than subscribe to our stuff? All right, yeah. So thank you for listening.
またね。バイバイ。